The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
What time is it?
I'm here to stand up for wrestling. I am here to give the fans a voice.
If you're not watching the promotion right now, you're missing out on something I think that could possibly shape the future of wrestling, and I mean this wholeheartedly, for the next 5 to 10 years.
Nobody can touch me. Nobody is better than Adam Cole.
This company is still existing, yet they have to do this at the 11th hour to make sure that they run these tapings. I thought TNA was going to be different, and I guess not.
This is truly the Kevin Owens Show.
Pentagon Jr. is the wind beneath my wings. The only thing that we get at 10 for sure, maybe at 11, is Ken Shamrock showing up.
What does it mean for you to go down in WWE history as the first Cruiserweight champion?
You know, during that time, I searched so hard for inspiration because that's all I had. All I had was inspiration. And I looked to my heroes. My heroes did stuff like this. And I was in that place and I felt like I could never find something like this. And now it just means the world to me to be able to inspire somebody else that's going to keep coming. 'Cause this is bigger than me. This is bigger than me. This is not one person. This is 32 people. All of them. Every single one of them. I started and they were just my peers. And tonight, at the end of this, every single one of them are also my hero. It's just for everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, wrestling to the mat.
And your hosts, Gary Vaughn, Sean Garmer, and Paul Leeser.
Welcome, everybody, to Wrestling to the Max, episode 112, part 2. I am your host, Gary Vaughn, and we are going to get into a lot of... I did. What's the problem with 100?
Wait, now I just have myself on mute. That was great.
Welcome, everyone, to the Wrestling Time Machine.
Yeah! There you go.
So, yeah, we actually went backwards, for real. 100 episodes.
I got excited, guys, and we got a lot of cool stuff to talk about, and so I said 112. Wow. Sean, tell them the correct number, because I can't say it.
It's 212, part 2.
212.
We're here 2 years in the past to talk about stuff in the future, guys.
Yeah.
Technically, and I'll be honest with you guys, I think I have 112 on the mind because my old dorm room at the University of North Texas was 112. And so when I saw 212 earlier, I started thinking 112 used to be something special. And I thought about it right before we went on air. So that's why. So, hey, I'm going back in time. Come with me, people. It's lovely. But anyway, let's don't go too far back in time.
Haunts the dorm room.
Yeah, that was a scary place, but very fun, too. But anyway, yes, it is episode 212. Welcome back to the current time. And of course, this is going to be a great episode. We are all really honestly talking about stuff that is current and also maybe aiming to the future because we are talking Cruiserweight Classic tonight. That's right. There is a Cruiserweight Classic champion and also brand new Cruiserweight champion that'll be heading to Monday Night Raw, and that's going to be fun. So we'll be talking about who won and getting to all the matches that happened on that show. Plus, we're talking NXT. We're also jumping into some cool stuff when it comes to Lucha Underground and TNA Impact Wrestling. Continuing with the Broken Matt Hardy stuff. So, and of course, you can't forget, people, we always crown Superstar of the Week on these shows, and we've got some interesting picks here, so you don't want to miss that as well. And, one other thing that we're going to throw in here, it's going to be a special little topic in a way, I guess you'll say. We're doing our predictions for New Japan's Destruction. That's right, night one. We are going to get into and give you our decisions and kind of what we think is finally going to take place on that show. So I'm excited about that and all that entails. But man, guys, I'm here. Of course, like I said, I'm your host, Gary Vaughn. Of course, can't do this alone. The guys you just heard, one of them is Mr. Paul Leeser.
Heyo.
And of course, Mr. Sean Garmer.
What's up, people?
And here we are, guys, and I know we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. Trust me, I'm not going to delay us too long, but I just want to let everybody once again know that, if you want to find us, and this is your first time listening and you're not impressed already, trust me, there's plenty of other content. We've done plenty of other shows that you can listen to and probably be impressed besides the intro I gave you guys tonight. But to find us, you can always go and subscribe to Wrestling to the Max, but hey, we'll do you one better. We want you to go subscribe to the W2M Network. That gives you not only all the episodes we do, it gives you all the special episodes and, of course, a lot of other great content that we have on our network. Includes football. It also includes video games. It includes other wrestling shows besides ours. So if you just don't want to hear our perspective, you've got a lot of other guys that are talking wrestling. You can get into their shows as well. And, we love everybody on this network, so we're gladly going to point you their way. So please, go subscribe. It's just one click, guys. One click, and you get all that content. And, of course, want to lead you over to a special website. That is right, W2Mnet.com. If you go there, you not only can just find all that stuff I just told you about, but you can read a lot of cool stuff during the week. Maybe you don't have time to sit down and listen to a podcast, and you want to read a little bit. That's the perfect place to go. Lots of football, lots of wrestling, lots of great stuff on there you don't want to miss. Lots of cool reviews. We do reviews on our podcast of Raw, Smackdown Live, and, of course, on this show, we do NXT and Lucha Underground. But you can read some of that in written form if you go to W2Mnet.com. We want to, give you that opportunity if you ever have the chance to just give yourself a minute and read. It's going to be really cool. So, guys, this is going to be a really fun episode. We're going to start this thing off and do it a little different tonight. We're going to jump into Cruiserweight Classic talk because there was that champion crowned, and we want to get into that. After that, we'll do some news. But let's do this thing a little different, guys. Well, let's jump into that Cruiserweight Classic.
All right. I did do a Wrestling Max Extra with Patrick yesterday, right after it ended. So this is more of a platform to let these two gentlemen talk about this than say me. I might reiterate some things just because I know not everybody listens to the extras, but they see the episode number and they listen to that more than those things. But hey, you know what? I think it's cool that we have the ability sometimes, whether it's just me or it's Paul and I or it's all three of us or some other people, that we can get stuff out to you quickly, or at least that night or whatever. So,
definitely.
Without further ado, here we go with the Cruiserweight Classic. I thought they had a really cool video kind of going through everybody's journey, the 32 people that we're in and how it's down to 4. And they started off with Zack Sabre Jr. and Gran Metalik, almost said Máscara Dorada. And then this thing just didn't stop. They were constant from the moment the bell rings, Metalik is already going after Sabre Jr. and they did not quit ever between submissions and high spots and everything else. Gran Metalik wins with the Metalik driver over Sabre Jr. to once again pronounce the fact that the people that did not sign, the only two people that did not sign the WWE actually wanted, are not going through any further in this tournament, starting with Zack Sabre Jr. What did you guys think of the match and Metalik going to the finals?
This match is awesome. That springboard head scissor takeover that they do off the ropes is just absolutely incredible. And Metalik really gets a platform, I think, to shine here. Zack Sabre certainly gets his spots in here or there, but this, I think, was all about making Metalik look awesome, and they did a fantastic job of that.
Definitely. And, really honestly, in this entire night, it's kind of hard that you could go wrong with any of these people, to be honest with you. So the winner doesn't matter in a way, but the matches do. And boy, this first match was excellent, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, these guys have done a great job the entire tournament. But just to see these really extremely talented guys face off against each other, like Metalik and, of course, Zack Sabre Jr., it was just a treat to watch. And once again, I've been thoroughly impressed with Zack Sabre Jr., but I think Metalik's been the guy I really didn't know a whole lot about, didn't follow him as much. And, I'm thrilled that they actually have him signed. He is on the roster. So that's going to be a blast to see him in the future, but this is really cool.
Yeah, and then I'll go. This was freaking a great match. Obviously, the next match would eclipse it, but that doesn't take away what these two did here, and they gave you something that your constant action going on, because in the next match, they sort of has more of a kind of the standard wrestling pace. It doesn't have the all going out stuff. It was, but that had its purpose too, of T.J. Perkins and Kota Ibushi. Once again, Kota Ibushi involved in the match. It is fantastic. I think it's really hard to argue that Ibushi, even though in losing, is not the MVP of this tournament, because every single match that he has had, aside from I think the first one, is just. Which, everybody had sort of that same type of match in that first round, but starting with the Cedric match and going on, just killer matches all the way through, and this one did not disappoint as well. You had so much stuff going on here, and TJP several times with the knee bar finally gets it in, and he moves on to the final as we expected.
That STF was absolutely brutal looking. Oof. And, no shame in tapping out to that one, to be honest. You're right. Ibushi has been money. Even in the first round, like that match with Sean Maluda came out of freaking nowhere. And, from there to Cedric to, it wasn't Brian Kendrick. It was, it was Brian Kendrick, wasn't it?
Yes, it was Kendrick.
Yeah. And then, of course, to this, pulled out the Tomohiro Ishii effect, where he's just shitting 4-star matches as far as the eye can see, and absolutely can't miss in this tournament. Brought that big name feeling to it as well. You couldn't have asked any more from Ibushi than what he gave you. And TJP, I think, maybe right behind him, because his matches were all really good too, even his first round match. And these guys just went out there, absolutely wrecked it. Absolutely wrecked it. They worked Ibushi's neck over, which is eventually what gives them the win. And this was great. Absolutely wonderful. Match of the year contender.
Yeah, definitely an excellent match. You're right on that. And, what I loved about this as well is it kind of gave you a little bit of a story here. And what I mean by that is throughout the match, Mauro Ranallo kind of went through it, but, it was all about TJ Perkins making the right moves, making the right decisions, because we all know how dangerous Kota Ibushi is, and how his kicks and just everything that he has in his offense is so lethal. And, you can't make any mistakes, and if you do, you're probably going to end up with a 1, 2, 3, and you're the one done. So I think that, I love that part of it. It wasn't like, we had TJ Perkins here wrestling too scared or anything like that, and it was not like a Miz thing. But what was cool about it was he was just making the right decisions, and you could tell that in this match, and it was just smooth, and it's just thoroughly enjoyable. Like Paul said, one of the match of the years.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, this was on that border, certainly a match of the year contender, and we'll have to see again. So many match of the year contenders already. This year has been insane. Add another one to the list, and then you had your one non Cruiserweight Classic match. They decided to go for more of a 2-hour show here, and you had a Gargano and Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa tag match that kind of showcases all of the some of the other cruiserweights with Noam Dar and Cedric Alexander. This was also just lots of action going on. You had the one spot that Patrick and I didn't talk about the spot because we were kind of trying to rush. Patrick was at a friend's house and he only had a limited time to be on, but they had a spot which I could not figure out if Johnny was supposed to grab his Ciampa's hand and put it on the ropes, or if he was supposed to break up the count and he just didn't make it, or whatever. But it was a real one of those like false finishes that was almost like way too. They had to, the crowd even booed because it looked like it was a little bit of a botch there on that. But I mean, this match was constant stuff going on. Loved it, and of course it gives Gargano and Ciampa a nice win. They made mention of it on the NXT show previous. And I want to say again, apologize for saying on the Smackdown show that it was for the NXT tag titles. I was confused, and this was sort of a warm-up match to get the Revival to pay attention to them, which I'm sure that will come up at some point. But, yeah.
Yeah, this was fine. I think it was a platform for Gargano and Ciampa to sort of show off. Because these guys aren't done with NXT by a long shot, even though they both might end up on that on Raw this coming Monday. Excuse me. This was fine though. I'd like the rolling kick that Gargano does that gets blocked, and that was an awesome spot. And Ciampa with the knees was just like he could have been a serial killer with those knees. Like they're so precise and murdery, and I loved it. This is a nice little palate cleanser to get you ready for that next match.
Yeah, serial killer, psycho killer. He's just a killer. And that's what I love about Ciampa. And he did excellent, of course. I'm going to say that because, he's my hero. But besides that, we're going to talk about, everybody else involved too, which to my chagrin. But it was, like Paul said, it was to highlight, these two guys, Ciampa and Gargano. But at the same time, I love the fact that you get some Cruiserweight Classic guys to come back and, do their thing. And it's nice to see him again, Alexander, and just, it's just one of those where you're happy to see it. You're completely okay with it. Did it mean anything? Not really. At the end of the day, yes, it's a nice warm-up for, Gargano and Ciampa, but at the same time, this is just about getting to see these guys back in action again, and it's a nice thing. So I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, and then you get your main event, which, man, they had a hard road to climb with that Ibushi and TJ Perkins match earlier, and so they still went out here and had a terrific match. Before this, you had Triple H come out. The only time we've really seen Triple H in this entire tournament, other than that first show where he's there on commentary with Daniel Bryan and Mauro Ranallo. And he comes out. He has his real title, but still called Triple H. And he has a kind of this cover bag with him, and he announces what we had kind of speculated about for a while, that whoever wins here becomes the first Cruiserweight champion. The belt has a purple background that goes with the Cruiserweight Classic colors, and it has a plate with the Cruiserweight champion and all that stuff. And of course you have the main event, which once again working the knee bar. The finish was great. He didn't really sell the knee so much in the match, but the one time they made a big deal about it added so much of it to me, because he makes the big deal where he can't do the Metal League driver because his leg gives out, and then he sells the leg, and then when he goes up to try to do the Super Metal League driver, he can't do it. It gives out again, and he's able to turn it into a knee bar. And TJ Perkins wins, and then you get the speech that you get there at the end that you heard in the intro there from TJP. So, what do you guys think? What do you like? What do you think about the title and everything else there in the pageantry at the end?
For me, the championship is far from the ugliest thing WWE has given us recently. That purple strap is sexy, though. Like, that was a nice choice. Everything in the match I absolutely loved. I almost felt like this match was more about Metalik than TJP, even though TJP is your winner. Metalik just goes out here and gives you everything he's got, and then that little bit extra to really just, like, he stole the match for me, even though it was all about crowning TJP the champ. TJP's chest, it looked like ground meat after all those chops. Like, it was pretty freaking disgusting.
Yeah, it was. But I mean, it was kind of a nice example of the war that he went through, and it was just kind of a one of those things where you kind of feel like, man, it's just proof that these guys go through so much, and boy, he went through a couple battles, and T.J. Perkins came out shining, and that was great, and it was exciting, and I think both those guys, Metalik and of course TJP, both are very impressive guys. And for them to go out there after the battles they had before they got into the ring against each other, it was amazing. I love, like Sean was talking about, the whole, issue with Metalik not being able to pin because of his knee, things like that. It was just super, special to kind of show that this guy is super talented. It's just he can't do it. He's trying his best, but he can't do it. And at the end of the day, TJ Perkins can. And for me personally, after TJP holds the belt, I really felt like once he presented the as champion, he should have played some purple, because go with that purple belt. But it's a lot better belt than, like Paul said, some of the other belts we've seen. But I really enjoy it. I think it
probably would have cost him some pretty pennies there.
Prince is dead, isn't he?
Still got to pay licensing.
Prince is I'm not saying anything bad about the dead, but he is one serious man when it came to the copyright and things like that. I mean, you can't even find anything on YouTube with Prince. It's retarded.
I mean, he was very much in it with Metallica about, don't like all the stuff that was going on with that.
Mm-hmm. I get you. So great, congratulations to TJ Perkins, the first cruiserweight champion. So it's really cool.
Yeah, I think this tournament overall is just an unqualified success for the WWE. It gives you a reason to order the network, for one. Two, I think it really shows that you can present something this heavy on wrestling and sports and have it get over pretty well. Granted, you're already targeting that demographic as a network, but I think anybody who watches this is certainly going to get a lot of mileage out of it.
Yeah, and it's funny to say this, but it's a way for Triple H to get around Vince, and he can kind of showcase guys that they would never showcase. Guys that honestly, I mean, Cedric Alexander was a guy I never thought would have been in the WWE, especially T.J. Perkins. I'll be honest with you, I never imagined. I figured he was going to go do something else like Ring of Honor, maybe go to Japan. I thought he was going to end up back in TNA. I really did. And for him to be in a WWE ring, very odd to me. But I'm glad. And several of these guys, I'm just so happy to see, these indie superstars actually in the WWE. And this whole Cruiserweight Classic was just a super big treat for us all to watch. And for the fact that we actually got something out of it, guys being signed, that's something super special. And I can't wait till next year. Next year, I can't wait to see who they actually get to bring to this thing and what big names they're going to bring after, this year.
What do you think they're going to do the women's one like the rumor mill has been churning out?
I mean, if you do like what Patrick and I talked about yesterday, you can do. I think you give them 2 full months off of tournaments if you're going to do. I saw a picture floating around of. Looks like the tag tournament is for sure happening again. You need to give people some time off, at least a month off, or if not 2 months off, and you can do 2 months. Then you do tag tournament, which I think the tag tournament is never going to be this big because I don't know if they can find 32 tag teams that are, at that level that are really going to make it worth it for people. Now the women's one, they certainly could. Even if you don't do 32, if you do 24, if you do 16, whatever, and if it's shorter. I know this is a huge process for them, so I think they do the women's. I just wonder if perhaps they don't do this every year, if perhaps it's every couple of years or something like that, because remember, you do have to have the talent to bring in, and some of this talent, it's coming from other promotions, and those promotions may say, okay, well, you're not going, or, you can go without having a contract to come back to, and so then they have to go and figure that out on their own about, do they want to go, and what if they don't get signed, Look like WWE basically signed anybody that had a name, which is kind of what they're doing right now, but it's certainly going to be interesting, I think, going forward, how this gets handled and how companies are going to deal with this, and because I don't think everybody's going to be happy with just, oh yeah, we just gave WWE some talent. That's just great.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from on that, and to me, I think eventually, what's going to happen is all this is going to shake out to where the guys that are going to stick around are going to stick around, and the guys that are not exactly, wanting to stick with WWE, they're going to eventually go on their own way. So I think the way this is going to have to work is it's going to have to work where WWE brings in people. They're not going to sign as many as they signed here at the beginning. So we can, other promotions, don't worry, they're not stealing your guys unless, there's a, situation where they can do it. But I don't think they're going to steal too many in the near future. I think they're eventually going to have their fill of our rosters getting packed here. But the women's thing, I think that's going to be great if they do that. And if they, wait a little bit before they get that started, that's fine. I'm really curious to say, we already have a SmackDown champion for the women. We already have a Raw champion for the women. What would they do, an NXT champion for the women? What would they do as a reward besides a trophy for the women? I mean, would they give them a shot at one of those titles? What would they do as, kind of a gesture, or do they have to at all?
I don't know if you go with a guaranteed title shot against, the Raw Women's Champion or the SmackDown Women's Champion, but certainly I think having them, depending on who wins, obviously, and how much buzz it gets and all that stuff, certainly letting them have a women's title match at a takeover or something like that for the NXT Women's Championship might not be too far out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good idea, and it would be something special, something that would make that tournament mean something besides just a.
Yeah, because that's something I didn't think about when we were talking about it, Gary. Was how do they? Because they won't have a title to present. It'll be you'll get the trophy, and then is that all you're going to get? Is it the trophy or something else?
Or they could just give you one of their guys on the roster or something. You never know. So yeah, I don't know. But, yeah.
Well, yeah, Gary gave him a guaranteed contract or whatever to whoever wins.
Yeah,
that's a thing too.
Yeah, very true. Any of that would work, So, but we'll see. There's lots of possibilities here. I think all of us would be in favor of this tournament, and I think all of us would be in favor of the Cruiserweight Classic. Of course, returning sooner than later. But I completely get it. If you want to wait, of course, a year, wait, a little bit to do any of the tournaments, especially, coming off this one. So we'll see. We'll see what they do, and we'll, of course, let everybody know once we do hear of any, rumors or any actual facts coming out about new tournaments. But now, guys, I think it's time for us to move on, and let's get into some wrestling news. There's been a few things happening in the wrestling world we need to jump into, so why don't we go ahead and stop off and do some quick hits. We'll be right back with that next, guys.
It's time for wrestling news. Quick hits.
Go for it.
All right, let's do this thing, guys. Let's go ahead and start this thing off. And, we talked about, SmackDown. Of course, you guys did, when you did your SmackDown Live show, and we, as a group didn't get to talk about this, but I want to kind of throw some things out here about Jack Swagger. Now, Jack Swagger joining SmackDown Live was kind of interesting. We touched on the Raw review show, and you guys actually talked about it on the SmackDown Live review. But the one thing I want to throw out there is I didn't get a chance to hear everything you guys said, but the one thing I find interesting about Jack Swagger joining is the fact that, we had him come out and do a little promo on SmackDown Live. Do you guys think that this guy is going to be taken seriously? Because we just saw him lose on Raw to Jinder Mahal. I'm really curious to see how they're going to book this guy. The fans, of course, love the We the People stuff. The guy, has something, but do you think he's really going to be able to turn it around on SmackDown Live?
If he's got a shot of doing that anywhere, it's going to be on SmackDown, because we talk about it all the time. SmackDown is the show that has all these rebuild projects on it, and that's what makes it so interesting to watch, is to see if they can pull it off. I think Swagger can do it. He's certainly managed to capture the audience's attention at various points in time with various different things. His promo ability still isn't terrific, but it doesn't need to be. If he's going for the rah-rah patriotic face, you just got to book him seriously. And I don't know if that's something you can do well in that roster right now, especially when you have so many guys trying to break away from the pack. But if they're serious about doing something with him, he's shown he can be a success story for him.
Yeah, Jack Swagger, like Paul said, he has history of being champion before. When they do get behind him, and he has a good game, and right now he still gets people to pay attention with that, We the People thing. So if he's really going to go after it with this, and they're really going to give him a platform, I think this can work. It's just, are they really going to get behind him? And that's the only thing. Is he going to just be another mid-card guy on the roster? Then he does fill that role well, and he does provide a guy that has credibility that they can go against. The problem is it's kind of like Dolph Ziggler in a little bit, in a way that you've done a lot with the guy, and he got to a certain point, and then you've kind of done nothing with him, and you're going to try to revitalize him, and is it going to work? So that's going to be interesting to see how the people react to that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really kind of curious how the crowd is going to react. And I think that, he has some potential there. It's just the fact that, we have not had a lot to root for when it comes to Jack Swagger. And I think that, if they can build some things with him, do some things that maybe have not been done yet with him, he can definitely make that next move and maybe, get better reactions and actually be someone that really honestly gets over. But we'll see. I worry a little bit because he's been kind of put down on the lower level so long now. It's kind of hard to get excited because you kind of feel like, well, they're going to pull the rug out from underneath him tomorrow. So I don't know. I just kind of have my weird worries about that. But you mentioned Dolph Ziggler, Sean. I want to mention really quick too before we kind of get out of SmackDown talk. The Miz and Dolph Ziggler did a spoof of CM Punk's fight against Mickey Gall. I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you guys picked that up or maybe not, I don't know, but I didn't really realize it until I kind of looked at some stuff later. That is kind of cool, kind of funny, and then again, kind of a slap in the face of CM Punk because of the results of that fight. What did you think about that?
I thought I didn't notice it either until I saw a picture-in-picture sort of thing pop up on my Facebook feed in one of the wrestling groups I follow. And it might have even been W2M one, I can't remember at this point, but it's kind of funny, it's kind of cool. I don't know if it's a slap in the face or it's just them sort of paying homage to CM Punk getting whipped, but it's whatever, right?
Yeah. What do you think, Sean?
I have not seen it at all, so no idea on.
Okay.
On that.
It's just they just kind of quickly do a little spoof of the fight, but the reason I was kind of saying slap in the face, maybe it's not really Miz and Dolph Ziggler doing it to be hateful. Maybe that was the wrong terminology, but I definitely could see where maybe Vince or Triple H would be very happy with those guys doing something like this to kind of poke fun at CM Punk's loss. So I get that. I just kind of a little interesting thing. And if you haven't seen it, it's all over wrestling sites, I'm sure. Go to a W2M Facebook group and you'll probably find it right there. It's all over the place. So go check that out. One other thing we need to talk about is the fact that NXT just had some tapings, and in those tapings we had a debut of a certain group. Now, I don't know, guys, do you feel wrong about giving away this
Okay,
group?
well, let's do this. If you don't want to know who the Sanity person or whatever is, you've got 10 seconds to fast forward about a couple of minutes.
Yeah, there you go. Just give us a couple minutes. So we do have Sanity actually debut, and that is not one person. This is actually a faction. And what's kind of interesting about this faction is it involves has Eric Young in it, which is kind of funny because it's been a while since we've seen Eric Young, but he is back, of course. And then we also have Sawyer Fulton.
Grown?
I know. I'm
saving up all my hate, guys. Saving it up.
We have Sawyer Fulton. We also have Alexander Wolf and Nikki Storm as a part of this faction. I mean, I'm assuming this is a heel faction coming into NXT. It's kind of interesting. It's a 4-person team, and it also has a female in it, which is kind of cool, too, because we haven't seen that in a little while. What do you think?
I will absolutely reserve judgment until I see Bud EY in charge of a faction just...
Okay. Waiting for that.
Volcanic eruption over here waiting to go off.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Sean, I think it's kind of cool. And I kind of like some of these names in it. And, yeah, Eric Young's not the most exciting guy, but I think he's a talent.
Yeah. I don't mind Eric Young so much as long, if this is what he's going to be doing, it's fine. At least they're not trying to build him as here's the next big star that NXT signed or whatever. They're kind of and they're also using guys that have been around, like Sawyer Fulton. That, good God, how long has that guy been there? And you're putting Nikki Glencross in there to have a different role as well. So I like it. I like the fact that we're using a mixture of guys that have already been there and new people, and it's not just a new stable and you're pushing people that have already been there even further down.
Yeah, it is quite interesting. I guess I kind of have to reserve, any kind of judgment until we actually see this take place and see what it's all about. But I'm just really interested in it, and we'll have to see how they handle this. I'm really kind of curious what their mission is and what they're all about, So, some other piece of news, Paul. I hate to say this, but your boy, Shibata is hurt right now. He has a spine injury, which they're not really sure the severity of it, but we do know he has that never title, and that's coming up. The first defense is in Destruction. What do you think about this injury?
It certainly sucks for all parties involved because it's not just New Japan that's going to suffer now. It's Ring of Honor. It's anybody he's going to be working for in this sort of new, almost triangle alliance between New Japan, ROH, CMLL. I mean, obviously it's a big blow for him too, especially if it's bad, because he's certainly a guy they're grooming to be, I think, IWGP champion within the next 2-3 years, if even that long. So, I mean, a big blow for him. Big blow for him, for sure.
I mean, that sucks because that title defense with Bobby Fish on the show would have been really cool to see. You did get to see it on ROH already, but, seeing it in Japan is a different thing because they do like Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly there. So, him having to lose that belt before whatever they were going to have him do with it, whoever he was going to lose it to, kind of sucks. That always sucks when somebody has to give up the title early because of an injury. And hopefully it's not any kind of career-threatening thing, and it can get better, and, he's Shibata again.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it's a terrible thing to hear, and he's such a big talent. It's a big bummer. But hopefully, he'll heal up quickly, and no other effects will take place. New Japan is also looking into signing a couple more guys that are very interesting, and those guys are Bobby Fish and, of course, Kyle O'Reilly, ReDragon. What do you think about this, Paul? Do you think they fit in right away? I mean, I know they've been in wrestling in New Japan for a little while with Ring of Honor.
A very long time, and it's a team that New Japan has pushed heavily. They lose very, very rarely, and I think it's two guys, especially with how hard they've pushed Kyle O'Reilly in some of these Best of the Super Junior tournaments. I think it's two guys they're very interested in having on their roster, so I would not be surprised if they get their own deals over there.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about this a couple of times on New Japan specials that, Kyle O'Reilly belongs there. Not to say that Bobby Fish doesn't, but Kyle O'Reilly is somebody that they could. I've said this, I think, a couple of times, that he's only a couple of pounds smaller than Shibata, and he could really be somebody. The crowd likes him. He could be a guy that gets out of the juniors and becomes something as far as a Gaijin, and he can wrestle with so many different guys because he has that different. He has the mat style, and he also has just that regular wrestling style that, man, like him in a G1, that'd be great. I really think they could do a lot with him.
Sean, we're getting some more information about New Japan, and in fact, they have actually had a total gross amount of money that we want to talk about. Why don't you get into some of these numbers here and kind of give us an idea of what's going on with that?
Well, it's just kind of their total gross from September to August of this year, which is up 18% from last year, because, everybody keeps saying, and remember, everybody was saying, the sky is falling because Nakamura and AJ left, and actually their attendance went up, and their revenue went up, and that's a really good thing for the company, because everybody kept saying, they're just flat, everything's flat, and if you look at a lot of the G1 numbers and everything else, a lot of the places were either around the same as the year before, or just slightly down. So, I mean, this is a really good for the company. It shows how deep they are, that they have been able to stay at that level.
I really wonder how many subscribers are on New Japan World, because I wonder if that's making up any difference from any sort of, or making the percentage of their gross revenue going up either. Like, if they're banking off that, that's kind of cool. That's a big step forward. Especially if other promotions can successfully pull off a streaming service like this, like WWE and New Japan have, then certainly it might become a very commonplace thing, and you can follow pretty much any promotion in the world.
The fact that they haven't released numbers in a long time for that makes me think that it's probably still around that last number we ever heard, which was not good. I'd imagine they would be just like WWE, considering how Konami is, that if they all of a sudden got this huge boost in numbers, they would announce it, So them keeping quiet about it makes me think that it really hasn't gone one way or the other too far in a certain direction.
Yeah, very true. We'll have to see. I think that's it's interesting that those numbers came out, and like you said, Sean, that they just have kind of thrown that out there and not done it in a while. So I like to hear that they're doing well, and especially with that low attendance. That's nice to see. Let's go ahead and run into some TNA news real quick, guys. Let's talk about Billy Corgan. Now, we've all known for a while, he's been working and also has an invested interest in TNA. Well, he wants to have more involved, and in fact, he wants to really have a majority ownership of this company. but Dixie Carter still owns it. We know Aerolux has a portion of it, of course, with Billy Corgan, but they don't own majority stock in this company. What would you guys, say to Billy Corgan actually doing this and just getting that majority ownership?
Wow. Sorry, I was just finished reading that article. God, TV tapings costing between $600,000 and $800,000. My God. Certainly, I think TNA needs it to survive. They're sort of getting by on wings and prayers and people investing money here and there to get them through the next TV tapings, and then they have to go through the process again and get to the next set of TV tapings. And I mean, TNA needs it. I don't know. Recently, TNA's been much better on television. I don't know if that's all Billy Corgan or if there's some stopgaps in there on the Carter side of the faction of ownership, but I certainly think it's worth TNA. I mean, if TNA wants to keep on living, I think you got to do it.
Yeah, I mean, this is look. He's obviously gonna have to spend some money here, and he has spent money in order for them to continue going in the good direction that they're going. I mean, obviously, if you want to kind of get Dixie Carter out of things, you're going to have to make some kind of stake in the company, right? So this is the way to protect yourself in case, things start going down or anything and people start trying to get you out of power. So, that's flabbergasting that the costs are so high for these tapings, especially since they do them in the same arena almost every time. But I'm sure getting the rental for Universal Studios isn't cheap. But we'll have to see how this goes. But that's good for TNA. Like, we keep saying TNA has been really solid since they've been on Pop, and you can certainly see his claws in a lot of things. So hopefully it continues.
I'm really curious to see, how Billy Corgan would change things or if he would change much. Now, we've seen him make a few of his own changes, and I think some of those have been successful. Now, once again, you don't know how much of it is his, what's his. I think you can see his fingerprints on a few things, but as a majority owner, I would be really curious to see how different the show would be, if it would be different, and what direction they'd go in. So, I don't know. I mean, I think I agree with you guys. If this company is going to continue and it's going to do some things that maybe are out of the box even more than they already do, I think Billy Corgan would have to be majority owner. Is Dixie Carter willing to do that? I don't know if she's willing to do it to lose herself, because I think she really is a part of this and she loves this company so much. I think she loves the idea of owning it so much. I don't know if she'd be willing to sell it before it failed. I don't know that for a fact, but I could see her being a little selfish, man. I hate to say it that way, but maybe being a little selfish and saying, I rather it fail than me give it to somebody else and it succeed. I don't know that for a fact. I just kind of feel that way. Well, we are going to jump into some rapid hits pretty quick here. Before we do that, though, I mean, I'm just going to run this by you guys really quick, and I'm not going to read all the information because there's so much in this. And we've covered this a lot on this show, so there's no reason to get into some of the details we kind of already know. We've been following this Alberto Del Rio saga for quite a while now, and, of course, along with that goes Paige. So we've had Alberto Del Rio have his little press conference, give some insight on, what's going on with him. We had Paige come out and basically make her statement from her point of view, basically stating that, people's rumors are false about her leaving WWE. The fact that, her wellness issue should be solved for the fact that it was something from a surgery or something like that. So basically both of them came out and had some things to say. So just kind of quickly here, guys, kind of run down some of the things you found most interesting out of what they had to say this past week.
Geez, I think Del Rio's sort of stance on where he's at with pro wrestling is the most interesting thing here. He's sort of wanting to do what Cody is doing, be a freelance wrestler. He doesn't want to sign any exclusive contracts or anything like that. He wants to wrestle for 2 more years and then retire, and he only wants to work about 60 to 70 dates a year or so. And he's asking for $4,000 a shot, which, I mean, at least is cheaper than Ryback. So
true.
But it's a really interesting saga, I think, and so long as he's happy, I think that's really what matters at the end of this, is what all this seems to be what it's about for him. He's not happy in WWE. I don't know if he's ever been happy in WWE, and certainly this feels like the right move for him.
I mean, I think also him talking to Andrade Cien Almas, and that Almas is apparently not happy, and that he wants to sort of go back to Mexico, and he even asked Del Rio what happens. Does it get any better when you get on the main roster? And Del Rio told him that it gets worse. So that doesn't bode well for him. You know, that leads to a different conversation that I wanted to have on here, because I saw various people on Twitter talking about it. And, you know, in a regular employment setting, it's usually on the person to learn the language, and the job is never the employer is not the one that's supposed to make you go to classes and that kind of thing. But people were being upset that WWE doesn't like provide, other than, you know, with Funaki being there to translate and all that kind of stuff, but that, like, apparently Hideo Itami didn't start learning language until he started taking classes on his own. That WWE is not themselves funding classes for people to learn English, and that the company should really take some kind of deal with having something there for them to learn English. That, like, Asuka couldn't even read her schedule of where she was supposed to go, what she was supposed to be doing, because, you know, she doesn't know English. What is y'all's stance on that? Like, do you think WWE should be providing translators and providing English classes for them, or is it on the talent to go out there and do what they have to do to learn English?
This is tricky. WWE is able to get away with so much based on how they qualify employees as independent contractors, and I think from that stance and the way they look at it, it's certainly on them to go out and do whatever it takes to make sure that you're equipped to do your job, right? On the other hand, WWE is it's chiefly about investing in people, and if you want to get the most out of your investment, I don't know how much it would really hurt to let to teach people English, to teach them to read and write. I mean, or at least fund it, even if you're not going to have classes yourself. I mean, I can't imagine it be that expensive.
No, it's not. And I would assume that, I mean, I don't know. I don't know I don't know Orlando at all. I don't know what community colleges are around there or what kind of classes are. I guarantee you there is some place in that area that has multiple language centers where you can learn other language, whether it be Japanese to English or Spanish to English or whatever. I'm sure that it's available somewhere in that Orlando area, if not, nearby. We're not talking about a small, city. This is a major city here. So I think that they have those opportunities. Now, this goes back to that thing Paul said. It's tricky. In my personal opinion about it, I feel like WWE, if you're investing in this person and you really want this person to succeed, you need to give them the right tools. You would never send a rookie NFL player, a rookie basketball player out there without the equipment they need to be successful. You're going to give them the right cleats, the right sneakers, the right uniform, what's going to help them and be their best. You're not going to just say, oh, well, show up whatever you got. If you have shoulder pads, great. If you don't, well, we'll see how you do. And so I really feel like that is important, and I don't think it's that expensive. WWE already has programs for education. Why don't they include this in some of that? We've heard about them, helping people go to college and do things. So I think this would be something great. Now, why do they not do it? I'm sure, honestly, they feel like it's up to the talent to do what they think will help them. And I think maybe it's part of their motivation for these guys and gals who are not, English speaking. I think maybe they want to evaluate them and see how much they really want to be a part of the WWE. They have all these mind tricks they play in that company. I think that's one of them. I really do. I think that's one that they're looking at them and saying, okay, here you are. I want you over, Asuka. Are you willing to do it yourself? Are you willing to learn? Or are you just here for the paycheck and then before you know it, you're going to leave? I think they want to know how much these people want to be in the company.
I mean, obviously, if you show initiative, like any other job, right? You show initiative, you are more likely to be favored than someone that just goes in there, does what they're supposed to do, and doesn't find a way to try to go get, move up or anything like that, So I do think and Vince has always been about that, right? He wants to see who's going to challenge themselves, who's going to do this, who's going to do that. So in a way that is sort of the old wrestling mentality, right? Of, okay, are you going to step up here? And part of that is learning English. Or are you just going to play it safe and understand that WWE is global and NXT is global and that, yeah, we can put subtitles under you and that's fine if you want to do that. Like Almas or we just don't do subtitles at all and then you got most of the audience not understanding what you're saying. So it depends on you, right? And from that perspective, I can see where WWE is. That's what their stance is. But I do think, in a way, providing the basics of English so that they can get around, so they can read, their schedule, so they can do things that needs to be done in Orlando or Tampa or wherever the hell in Florida they're going to live. Wouldn't be the worst thing in the world,
Yeah, it amazes me once again. I mean, because these people, come here, and it's already a culture shock. But for the fact that they're just handed a piece of paper without any explanation, and they don't understand what it is, it's once again. I mean, how are they going to provide and do what they need to do for their job if they can't even communicate? So I feel like WWE, it's in their best interest to be of help here and to aid these people and to give them that opportunity to succeed because, I kind of feel like it's up to them. I think it's a take and give situation between talent and company, and they got to meet in the middle somewhere. I don't know what that is, but they do. So a very interesting conversation. I
do think also that apparently they were almost set to fire Paige at one point. But they didn't.
Why do you think that is, though? Well, I mean, do you think Paige is really that valuable right now? They've showcased so many other women on this, this brand, Raw at least. So we don't have to talk about SmackDown. Do you think that losing her it really hurts that much when we've been out without her for how long now?
I think that WWE has put a lot into her. I think they are interested in seeing her become one of their major stars. And I think it's about what we've been saying from the beginning. They're on such a large platform now, and they need as many of these talented girls as they can get to prove that the Revolution is going to be a success. And Paige is certainly, I think, a big part of that. And once you get her back into that mix over on Raw, I think it's definitely going to help Raw out, too. So I think it's win-win for both.
And we could see her as early as Raw on Monday. I think personally, if you watch Total Divas, that stuff where she interacts a lot with the fans, and she has a lot of fans, a lot of girls that identify with her because she's so different. That's all real. They're not really just throwing. I mean, it's possible they could throw fans there, but she has a lot of people that come up to her and say things like that. So having somebody that doesn't look like the blonde bimbo or the hot brunette chick or whatever, now they have, all the horsewomen have different colored hair, and then you have Bayley, but it's just like, Paige is really that one that, like, when you see her compared to everybody else, she sticks out. And so, like, having somebody, having all the variety of colors, right? Like, having just so many different kinds of people there that you can relate to this person, you can relate to that person, is never a bad thing, especially somebody that's talented like Paige, that she can talk. She's, she works for Total Divas. I mean, so I think they don't want to just throw her to the wayside. They understand that, she has a fan base and they can tap into that. So, I don't think it's the worst thing that she's staying there. It helps the company and it helps her.
Yeah, I totally agree. You anything, Paul, you want to say?
No.
All right, well, we'll jump in a couple of rapid hits real quick, guys. Just, kind of a few thoughts, whatever you want to think and say about this. TNA apparently is no longer going to have Rebel a part of their roster.
They tried. I don't think she was anything close to being anything special, so don't let the door hit you on the butt on the way out, I guess.
It's a big butt for it to hit, I guess. So fine work, I'm sure, with, being a former cheerleader and everything. So, sucks for her. But, I mean, after you have that match with Shelly Martinez that was all over the internet and it was so terrible, it's going to be very hard for them to kind of just really promote you after that. And she never worked as the sort of second leader of the Dollhouse either.
Mm-hmm. Very true. It was not good. But, former Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, I hope the best for her. Let's talk about the fact that the Senate in Mexico had a very important vote that they had to put through, and it was a vote that they actually went and voted 75-0. Everybody voted for this, for a National Lucha Libre Day, and this is, of course, going to take place on September 21st. Any doubts on that? I think it's kind of cool.
It's pretty neat. It's the anniversary of the very first Lucha Libre show ever promoted by the original founder of CMLL, which was known as EMLL back in the day, and it's really cool. I mean, CML is so invested in just like Mexican infrastructure. Both Arena Coliseo and Arena Mexico were built and funded by the owner of CMLL and are still owned by them today, which is really cool.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. I mean, if anybody deserves, other than Japan, I think, and we even have a National Wrestling Day, but it's not really, it's something that's sort of celebrated in the wrestling community. It's not necessarily an actual, day that's put on the calendar, because, Mexico's such a culturally in the thing with Lucha Libre. I mean, this only makes sense. I'm surprised they didn't have this before.
Yeah, I am too, honestly. I'm a little bit surprised. When I saw this, I thought, wow, this is new. But, that's really cool. And, it's definitely something that is, part of Mexican heritage and culture. So I think it's really neat. All right, guys. Well, we are done with quick hits for this week. We are going to move on from here. We're about to do some NXT talk. That's right. We got a lot to talk about with that. And, of course, don't forget, we also have to talk about New Japan's Destruction. We're going to get into the part one. Plus, we're going to jump into some Lucha Underground and some TNA Impact Wrestling. So there you go, guys. Well, we'll be right back with some NXT.
WWE Developmental NXT.
And Skype is being evil to Gary today. Just saying.
Is it really bad all day, all this entire time?
It's like you're... when you get on to where you're talking for a few sentences, for some reason it starts, during that last part there, you cut out about 3 or 4 different times.
Is it pretty bad, Paul?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not your fault, obviously. Just saying that Skype is being mean to Gary,
I don't know why. It's so weird. Why would we do that? Yeah, my signal's really high on my end. It's weird.
It's it's discriminatory against Gary. If people named Gary.
Yeah, it is. Doesn't like me.
So we I was trying to see if we could make a joke out of it, but it apparently did not work. So we start with Samoa Joe coming out to pay his respects for calling Nakamura an undeserving champion, and now realizing that Nakamura does deserve to be a contender and does deserve to be champion. Basically, he went through everything. He didn't care about being friends with anybody. He just wanted to be champion and wanted to make sure that he was part of this, making NXT the best brand out there. And so he wants to say something to Nakamura's face, and Nakamura, takes his time to get out there, of course. And he wants a rematch with Nakamura. Nakamura takes his time to say, "You're on." And then as Nakamura is about to leave, he sure takes his time to celebrate and everything else. Joe attacks him and screams, "I did this to you," as he does a Uranagi onto the steps. And William Regal and Corey Graves are out there all concerned for the champion. They do a big stretcher job and everything. So Nakamura, I guess, going to be out for a little bit here.
I thought this was a really great segment. The whole build around Joe coming out and seemingly turning over a new leaf, only for you to find out that he's just going to be same old mean old Joe, and put Shinsuke out and sort of hurt him like Shinsuke hurt him back at TakeOver, I think was a sublime touch to this feud, and something I'm looking forward to seeing them build on.
Yeah, definitely. And this is something that, they had to kind of address, and I appreciate them addressing it. And I was kind of weirded out a little bit, Samoa Joe being the face here in a way, being all sweet and kind, but then him coming out and just saying, ha ha ha, it's all a trick, I like that. I think it's kind of cool to have, it's a guy we really like. We like heel Joe. Face Joe, it's okay, but he's so great as a heel.
Yeah, certainly. Joe being the massive asshole heel it's all about himself, and he's angry and everything. This is when Joe is great, and he continues this here. So never going to complain about that. I love the fact at the end too, with Regal goes outside and gets mad. Joe just speeds off. Even more of a dick, that man. So Liv Morgan takes on Jobber number 1. Of course, this is Rachel Ellering. They just changed her name, so they don't. I guess so that you don't have a correlation between her and her dad now being both on the same show. Her name's now Rachel Fazio, and this is really short. Liv Morgan wins, and then she challenges to. She goes out and says, "Hey, no offense, Rachel, but you just tapped the hell out." And now she wants to challenge Asuka, even though everybody kept saying that there was no challengers left. Well, she is going to be the next one, at least she hopes. And the fans are telling her already that Asuka's going to kill her. Drew Gulak has a match with Hideo Itami. This is pretty good, I thought. And then you get the Authors of Pain squashing Jobbers. And Ty Dillinger cuts a nice little promo, I thought. That, sort of like almost like he was talking to himself, but it was funny.
That was kind of funny. I thought it was funny because he said, "Yeah, everybody else are saying I'm a 9 or I'm a 9.5. No, I'm a 10." That was kind of funny. Two things about the Liv Morgan. I have to say this, and it's just okay. First of all, did Rachel Fazio? Did she get permission from Jericho to use that name? Just kind of curious. Fazio. Anyway. But anyway, and then going from there, Liv Morgan. Why do you want a death sentence? Come on, really? But okay. We'll let's mark that down on the calendars, guys. The day she dies. So, anyway, the rest of the stuff was, good.
Yeah, it's always so fun to watch a woman beg for her own death, right? And God, get the tombstone ready. Measure it for the coffin, because Liv Morgan's not about to be long for this world.
True.
I really enjoyed the Atami match. I thought they let Gulak work in some good points. I honestly, God, I wouldn't mind seeing them work a longer match in the future if Gulak ever does get signed. The Authors of Pain squash was fine. They're certainly very scary looking whenever they get to work their big offensive moves, like the power bomb where they run the guys into each other, or the big assisted power bomb. Or I kind of like the clothesline Russian leg sweep finish too. I think it's pretty cool, and I look forward to whatever they're going to do with these guys. I'm pretty sure they're going to win that Dusty Classic, but at any rate, that's neither here nor there at this point, because Ty Dillinger, apparently naysayers are saying he might be a 9, and that's just the silliest thing I've ever heard in my life.
For sure. Yes, they did, in fact, at one point almost decide not to do the Dusty Classic, and they decided to actually do it. So, for this year. So, that was apparently a possibility that they weren't going to do it at all, which would kind of suck. So, let's hope they change it and they do kind of make it more like the Cruiserweight Classic or whatever, where they do kind of try to bring in other teams that are not necessarily, because obviously the tag division is nowhere near as deep as it was when they first did it last year. So, be interesting how they decide to do that this year. But yeah, moving on to the final match, which was the match they'd hyped up for most of the show, which was No Way Jose and Bobby Roode. The fans were absolutely insane with chanting and singing Bobby Roode's Glorious song. I think even Jose was sitting there like, whoa, what happened here? Everybody was into singing my song, and now it's all about Bobby Roode and his gloriousness. This was fine for what it was. You knew who was going to win, and Bobby Roode has a new finisher again.
I'm much more okay with the implant DDT being a finisher for him. It looks impactful. It looks like it finishes a guy. So I got no problem with it. I think Jose worked his fair share here. It's just kind of like these big names once again setting these homegrown talents back just a hair here and there, and I'm curious if this is going to become a long-running problem, that you're going to have all these big indie names, and none of your home-built guys are going to get the time to develop because you're going to be so anxious to move them up to the main roster, because you have to be able to sort of show off that, hey, look, we have this shiny performance center that's creating all this great talent. And then you have the indie guys come up and they have all the spotlight.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting. It really is. And, at the end of the day, I get, you got to have guys like Bobby Roode get over. It makes sense because, they are huge names. But at the same point, some of this young talent, you expect to, shine at times. And I don't know. It's that whole issue of, who should really deserve to get over. I don't know. But, at the end of the day, Bobby Roode is, of course, glorious, and we all know this. And so it was just nice to get a chance to see him on this edition of NXT, and I was happy with it. And No Way Jose, he kind of grows on me, and then again, sometimes I just kind of go, huh. So, and not a bad match. I can't say it was bad.
So he grows on you, then you go, huh? Oh, so what makes you go, huh, about it?
I fluctuate. Like I go, okay, this guy's kind of good. I kind of like what he does, and then I kind of go, oh, come on, Rafi, do better than that. Come on,
man,
be funnier.
Still getting the Rafi treatment.
I still feel like he's Rafi. I can't get over it. He'd be my favorite wrestler if he was Rafi. I can't lie.
Problem is he couldn't do about 3/4 of the stuff that Rafi does, so he wouldn't be this.
Hey, come on! You can eat a hot dog on the toilet on NXT. I think they can show that.
Yeah, as long as he's not doing it sexually, I guess.
Oh, not with like a 12-year-old sitting there watching him, right?
Oh God, you just made it worse.
Hey, it's on the league. I'm just saying. So we can move on. From here.
No, yeah. So we definitely need to move on from here to some other show so we can get this. I forgot that that's part of the show. Yeah, isn't it? It's oh damn it.
Ruxin's
It's Rox's kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's always he always got either the kid or the whoever involved in that. It's dumb. But yeah, go ahead. Or what are we doing after this?
Centerpiece on that.
Yeah, I was about to say, what are we doing?
What are we doing? I'm sorry. I guess I'm blanking. I thought we had something else here on the NXT. But now we guys, we have to move on.
Stuff.
Yeah, we talked New Japan for sure. Just to let everybody know, I'm sure Paul, Sean, you guys will be doing a special show for Destruction, right?
It's on Saturday. Probably
TBD.
I'll just ask Tom if he says that Sunday is the better day for him. Then we'll do it Sunday. If he says Monday, then we'll just do a part of the either before the regular show or part of the regular show. I don't know.
All right. Well, maybe we'll keep people posted. Keep an eye out for that.
I mean, I know Monday makes it more complicated because Paul's got bowling and everything. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We'll keep everybody posted. I
Yeah.
just want to ask the question. I want to make sure we announce it here first if we are, but we will let you guys know. Make sure you go join the Facebook group. If you're already part of that, just monitor it. Sean will probably post on there, hey, guys, we're doing the show, blah, blah, blah. So we just want to keep you guys notified. All right, let's go ahead and do it, Sean. I want to go break down Destruction.
All right. Let's do that.
King of Sport. New Japan Pro Wrestling.
All right. Well, it's actually really nice to be able to get back into talking about New Japan. They did have a Road to show a few days ago that I have not watched yet, so I can't give you recommendations on if you should go and watch it. But apparently the crowd, it did sell out, so that's good. At least, it's there. If you have New Japan World, you can go check it out now. It was actually on the 12th. But so this is the first of 3 Destruction shows. Normally you only have 2, but they decided to make it into a 3-show affair here for New Japan. I just realized we forgot to talk about Lucha Underground.
No, we're saving that.
We are?
Yeah,
okay.
We're saving it. This is our nice break. We get a little nice break between reviews.
Okay, so you have some major matches here, which you have major matches that go across all 3 of the shows. This one is in Tokyo. You have one in Hiroshima, and you have one in Kobe World, which we talked about the Dragon Gate show in Kobe World, and New Japan is going to do one there. And there's going to be one on Saturday morning, and then there's going to be a show on Thursday morning, which that one we'll cover on the regular episode. And then the last show will be the next Sunday on the 25th. So, plenty of shows to talk about here, but let's get through the first one. You have Finley and Henare, which I'm guessing is perhaps one of the new young boys or something against Roppongi Vice, or I don't know if that's somebody from Noah or anything, but yeah, you have that, and you also have Captain New Japan and Yoshitatsu, of course, Bullet Club Hunters against Manabu Nakanishi and Yuji Nagata. We kind of pretty much know who's winning the one with Finley, but
Yeah, I mean that's got Young Lion Squash written all over it. I too am not super familiar with an RA either, so that'll be an interesting treat. Captain New Japan, Yoshitatsu, Bullet Club Hunters. I'm gonna go with the Generation 3 guys here, just because Captain New Japan Like they seemingly have built a story around him being a teammate of somebody and them like not trusting him. So I kind of hope they keep going with that.
Hanare is from New Zealand. He debuted at the most recent Lionsgate Project show that they had.
Oh, see, I haven't watched that yet. I need to.
I have not either. I am just the power of the internet. Yeah, so at least we're not in the dark on that anymore. So after this, we have a 6-man tag with Great Bash Heel of Togi Makabe and Tomoaki Oma, and a Tiger Mask taking on Tenkoji of Hiroshi Tenzan and Satoshi Kojima and Jushin Thunder Liger. So more old people in a match all together. I'm gonna go with Great Bash Heel here.
This one's tough too because, I mean, obviously the Liger and Tiger Mask forever fighting. I don't know if they're still bubbling anything with Tenkoji over there, so I'm gonna go with them. I'm gonna go with Tenkoji and Liger.
Apparently, Hanare used to be known by Aaron Henry. He is 23 years old, so.
I see what they did there with the name. I get it.
Nice. So we move on to another 6-man tag of Geto, Hiroki Goto, and Tomohiro Ishii of Chaos against the Gorillas of Destiny and Chase Owens. A Chase Owens sighting here. Of course, Chaos against Bullet Club. The fact that it has Geto probably means that Gorillas of Destiny team wins.
The biggest part of me that is a Tomohiro Ishii fan cannot go against him, so I'm going with Chaos. Simply because, I mean, you look at that and that's like almost Bullet Club C team levels, right?
Right. Yeah. D team levels almost. If we had to go there, you get a Juice Robinson and Kyle O'Reilly match. You know, Juice always is up for these matches when he's on shows. So I think this should be pretty good here with Kyle O'Reilly.
I'm actually really looking forward to this. I think this will be surprising. I think Juice has really come a long way since coming to New Japan, and especially once they started letting him stand out on these Lionsgate shows and getting his time in those 6-mans. It's very clear he's adapted this style well. I'm going with Kyle O'Reilly to win, but this could be surprising, especially if they give it like 12 minutes or something. This could be really good.
Yes, I hope they give it some time, depending on, obviously what they do with this, one of the main title matches on this show, if they have to wind up nixing it or not, depending on Shibata's injury. But so these might be one of the matches that gets more time, or they just add another match. So we have more 6-man tag. Of course, with these shows, they don't try to really have a bunch of just showcase matches here. It's your usual New Japan fare with the big title matches at the end. So you have Bullet Club of Bad Luck Fale, Kenny Omega, and Yujiro Takahashi against more Chaos of Kazuchika Okada, Will Ospreay, and Yoshihashi. Now this one's a little bit tougher. I will say the Chaos team and Yujiro takes the. Well, you got the junior in there, so you could have Will Ospreay take a pin, but I'll have Yujiro lose and Chaos wins.
I'm looking at Chaos to win too. Yoshihashi's got the challenge against Kenny Omega coming up for the briefcase. Obviously Okada's Okada, and Will Ospreay not going anywhere from New Japan anytime soon. I'm really looking forward to seeing him and Omega hook up. I think this is going to be something really awesome, and yeah, I'm going to go Chaos.
Of course, Ospreay has a big title match on one of the shows. I can't remember which one it is, against ROH World title shot against Adam Cole. So, he will be getting ready for that. And you've also got a Los Ingobernables de Japón, the Evil Sonata and Tetsuya Naito against Hiroshi Tanahashi and friends, Michael Elgin and Ryusuke Taguchi. Taguchi's there, so Los Ingobernables are going to win. But this should be fun.
Yeah, more tension to add to the seemingly bubbling Naito-Elgin feud that's going on. I think Los Ingobernables get the victory here as well. And, God, I mean, Naito and Elgin are going to tear the house down when they're given the chance.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, they have a title match against each other on one of these shows, and it should be fun. And this, every time Los Ingobernables has some kind of multi-man tag, it's always great. So it's more to look forward to here. And, of course, the never open weight title match that we don't know if it's going to happen or not. Katsuyori Shibata against Bobby Fish. I think either way, even if it does happen, I don't think Fish wins. I think you have Shibata win, and then he'll vacate the title afterwards.
I don't know. This has some nice ROH tie over too with their recent television title match over on Ring of Honor TV. Surely Shibata retains here. Depending on the severity of that spine injury, though, he might give it up. He might not. I don't know. If he vacates, though, that creates a very interesting opening because they haven't really groomed anybody to really take that belt yet, outside of maybe Evil or some of those other guys who have sort of been on the outside looking in when it comes to championship. Maybe a Tacos gets the belt,
That'd be awesome if he did. I mean, they could give it to a veteran and then build up the title, keep the build up going with the title, and then figure out who they want him to lose it to. That's always an option as well. So we'll have to see what they decide to do with that. Hopefully Shibata's not as injured to where he has to lose the belt completely like that. That always sucks. And then, of course, you get your IWGP Junior Heavyweight title match, main eventing, according to Cage Match. Kushida defending against Bushi. We've had this match before, but it was really entertaining the first time. I still think I don't see Kushida losing here.
Yeah, I don't see Kushida losing here too, but they continue to sort of bite and claw away at Bushi's credibility, and I kind of hope that maybe he gets a. I mean, obviously this will end clean because it's going to main event, but I don't know if I like Bushi losing another championship challenge here to Kushida.
I don't really like it either for him. They could pull a crazy surprise and have Bushi win, but it just seems like you built up Kushida so much. If you're going to have Kushida lose to somebody, it's going to be to someone you really see carrying the ball like an Ospreay or, I don't know, anybody else that perhaps they might bring in the near future. But I think if they were going to do something with Bushi, they would have pulled the trigger on that already.
Yeah, certainly they have to pull the trigger on somebody eventually outside of Kushida, even though you've put so much effort into building him up as your ace. But he needs rivals, and they've kind of done that with Will Ospreay, but that's really about it, I think. And they've sort of done the Bushi thing where he blew mist in the championship during the tournament earlier this year too.
Very much so. It should be good, because if they had that really awesome match before where Taguchi had to come in and save Kushida from Los Ingobernables and everything. So will there be interference, or will they let them just go at it one-on-one, and we'll have to see. Obviously, I'm sure there'll be a ref bump or something, or Bushi doing the mist somehow or whatnot. There'll be some tricks and stuff. It'll be interesting to see how they do it. Yeah, and that's the first Destruction show, so on Monday we'll probably preview the one that's for Thursday.
For sure, that'd be awesome. And if you're not watching New Japan, this is a good opportunity to stop by and watch this Destruction show. Go grab you some of those Cheetos chicken fries and just sit down and enjoy it and relax a little bit. So, hey, just throwing that out. Maybe they'll sponsor us. Burger King, look over this way. We love your chicken fries. So
I did get some Velveeta. I just noticed, this must be new, that Velveeta makes these breaded things, and they have basically Velveeta cheese in them, and they take about, I want to say 10 minutes to make in the oven, and they're actually pretty good. So Velveeta, sponsorship always there.
Yeah, see, there you go. So we're just trying to get them. You just let us know. We'll gladly do this every week instead of just one time. All right, guys. Well, let's move on. And of course, we'll get into some other great stuff in this show. Just to let you guys know that we are going to crown a Superstar of the Week. We haven't done that yet, so you'll have to wait and find out who deserves those honors. But before we do that, we are going to jump into some Lucha Underground. That's right, guys. A big show this week, so we'll get into that now.
Where is there? It is. All right, Paul.
Boy, what an episode of Lucha Underground we have ahead of us this week. Where is it on here as I try to stall? Okay, so we get the usual opening package. They hype up, going over all the background stuff that happened last week and from last season that's going to be prevalent to today. Mostly, it's the Famous B situation with him turning on Sagrada and aligning with Dr. Wagner Jr. So we open with that, and then we go to a video package where we have Officer Joey Ryan and Ricky Reyes listening in on Dario after Ultima Lucha. Reyes wants to make the arrest, but Captain Velasquez, of course, says this is much more about, the death of the street thugs that Ricky has been around and all this other stuff. And Ryan sort of laughs at how much he cares about these guys. And, of course, that leads to an inevitable kung fu battle that you do in Lucha Underground. And eventually they sort of walk away, leaving at peace with Vasquez kind of calming them a little. And then that takes us to our first match where Dr. Wagner Jr. faces off against Masquerita Sagrada, and this is nothing more than a squash. Sagrada gets a little springboard headlock takeover, and Wagner quickly puts a stop to that with the Doctor Driver for the win.
Yeah, this puts over Wagner more, and I love this. This is kind of an interesting story. I'm just enjoying every bit of it. This is just a cool way to continue that and continue that storyline. So I'm completely happy with what's going on with this, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, it's Dr. Wagner. Famous B gets to look good here and picking the right guy. And it's also Dr. Wagner's an ass. So it's to put over, hey, look at him beating the small guy. So I enjoyed this.
Yeah, it was fine. Obviously, we're building towards something there with Famous B and Dr. Wagner, who, of course, is $250,000 richer after the last Ultima Lucha. So we go more backstage video stuff here. We cut back to ancient Aztec times. A man is on his deathbed telling his young daughter that there is a war coming and he wants her to lead it. And he gives her this amulet, which has a name that roughly translates into the Immortality Stone, and says that the power only works on women. So that's why she has to have it, and he makes her promise that she'll fight the war and all this good stuff. And we cut to the present, where it zooms in on Captain Vasquez holding the half of the amulet in her hand. When Ricky Reyes walks in, she quickly hides it and says that he wants to move in on Dario. They've called in the team that would eventually lead to his arrest, and she suspends him for it because Dario is a pawn in all this. He's not the true enemy that they're after, and she wants him to take some time to consider which side of the war he wants to be on, and that kind of won't go away. So next match is another squash as Mil Muertes pretty much murders Argenis in about 2 minutes. Argenis gets a pretty sweet springboard moonsault and some drop kicks, but once Mil runs him over with that spear, it was pretty much all over from there.
Yeah, this was total death for Mil Muertes. And I did like the stuff with the old going to the old Aztec times and the police chief having the medal and everything. That was really cool. I like that. So I love it when they go back and tell these stories from back into the old times, and they make it relevant. And then now that's like another piece of the puzzle of now even the police chief person has some kind of tie to all this. So slowly just tying everybody in together is great.
Definitely. And, I'm just excited to see that Lucha Underground is going a little bit outside their bounds, and they're actually working together with another, story, Sophia the First, that whole thing. I mean, the amulet thing, that's awesome. At least it feels that way. I have a 3-year-old daughter, so I know that show. If you're not getting that reference, or her amulet is so powerful, she's not supposed to take it off. So anyway, Sean knows what I'm talking about. But no, I'm kidding. But no, I think that's really interesting. I love, like Sean said, this whole, historical thing, go back in time and having something to, it's old lead up to now. And, that's what's so awesome about Lucha Underground, of course. So I enjoy this as well. This is a cool part of the story.
Yeah, and we're still not done with all that good stuff yet either there. We go to another video that took place on the previous episode. Dario walks into his office and sort of explores around. Officer Joey Ryan walks in and sort of surprises him that he knows that Dario had Mr. Cisco killed, but he doesn't care. He's a cop, and he wants to be on the right side of this war, which he believes is Dario's side, and is willing to work as a double agent for him for some money because he's got child support to pay. Oh, Joey. Oh, Joey. And then we're very quickly back into Captain Vasquez's office. Ricky Reyes has walked back in since it's been months since his suspension, and he's made his decision. He's going to be on the captain's side, and she tells him that he's going back into the temple and brings out the amulet after he walks away. And this leads us into our Weapons of Mass Destruction match between Killshot and Marty the Moth Martinez. And this was incredible. Marty comes out dressed in the military fatigues. Killshot sneaks up from behind him, and they start brawling all over the temple. He even goes so far as to hit him in the face with one of the 50 caliber machine gun props, which busts Marty open. And it just continues to get more awesome and more awesome. The big spots are incredible. The power bomb from the ring to the outside through 2 tables was just ouch. There's a huge Killshot hits a Death Valley driver on a ladder, and then near the end to put him away, Killshot hits a double stop from near the top of the ladder, diving down onto Marty, who's sort of suspended above the tables, and puts him through him for the win. And this is one of the best matches Lucha Underground's ever put on. It's very reminiscent of the Grave Consequences matches, and I'd honest to God, I put that right up there with it.
Yeah, it was that awesome. I'm right there with you, Paul. I really enjoyed it. I mean, there was so much going on, but so much awesomeness at the same time. I love the props. I'm sorry. All these different props that they throw in there, it just makes it feel special, and it's not the same old crap you see on every other promotion. This is actually something special, so I think that's nice. And of course, that table spot was super cool as well. So I just, man, overall, I mean, I could sit here and break down the entire thing, but that would take too much time. But I just love the overall production of this.
Oh man, this was so much going on in this match. So, like, Marty's bleeding almost the whole time. It's really brutal. Like, Mighty Posa gets involved at one point. So just tables everywhere, ladders. It's certainly weapons of mass destruction. There's weapons everywhere. Marty gets like a chair thrown at him in his face like 2 or 3 times. I mean, just so freaking good. One of the if it wasn't for Backlash having that awesome main event, the Cruiserweight Classic as well having, thank God we don't have to do a match of the week or anything, because geez, having to decide between all that. But if they didn't have that much stiff competition, this would certainly be one of those matches that you're talking about with the rest of this week.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, it's absolutely killer match, and I mean, yeah, if the Cruiserweight Classic wasn't this week, this would certainly top our lists. And after that match, we move on to Mil Muertes, who's backstage, who's letting out all of his rage onto a set of lockers, because I forgot to mention that Prince Puma attacked him post-match from that in his match earlier, because I'm a dingus. And Puma, of course, is capitalizing on the advice from Vampiro that he needs to avenge his loss to Mil from way back at the first Ultima Lucha. Katrina comes in and tells Mil that he needs to have patience. It's a virtue. She's waited over hundreds of years to get what she wants, and she reveals that she has the other half of the amulet, which is called Piedra Immortal. And that's... by the end of this episode, I was so entranced with what they were doing. This is really one of those linchpin episodes that everything going forward for Lucha Underground is going to be based off of. And I can't wait. I can't wait, guys. This season's going to be awesome.
So now we know that Immortal Rock is. So I guess they're like two things that are kind of together. That's cool. So she has that thing that makes her immortal, and then the police chief has the other one. So I mean that's pretty awesome.
It is, and it's one of those things that I'm really kind of curious to see how that story evolves, because once people find out that it makes you immortal, how that goes, people now want that, and so I'm really kind of curious to see how that whole thing evolves. So, I believe that's it.
Underground. Yeah, that's it.
All right, guys. Well, we are now moving on, and it is time to talk about more delete. That's right. It is time to talk about TNA Impact Wrestling, and we'll be talking about, a certain situation going on, furthering the story of, of course, the Broken Matt Hardy saga. We'll be right back with TNA next.
TNA Impact Wrestling.
All right, I actually watched TNA this week. So, well, I watched it while I was also watching the NFL game and the Houston and Cincinnati game, which wound up being a total blowout by the end. But, yeah, we have this stuff with what is it? I know they do Bobby Lashley comes out at first, I think. I'm trying to stall here for so we have the stuff with Matt Hardy coming out as now Reby is mentally broken. Max almost got kidnapped. Brother Nero got mutilated. Senior Benjamin is missing. They can't find Vanguard 1. Brother Nero is in a wheelchair. And he has to go into this lake to try to reincarnate it. And then you get, regular Jeff Hardy coming out with the face title. I know Gary was just excited to see the face title again.
Oh,
and then you get Brother Nero back. And now they're going to go try to find Vanguard 1. They also, what do they have with this? So they get back with the Hardy stuff, and Matt's trying to find Vanguard 1, and he sees that you have broken Vanguard 1, literally broken, and he goes crazy and starts like praying and to the gods and all that stuff, and you get to see like this little memory thing that Vanguard 1 has of like him and Senior Benjamin like playing chess, which is stupid. It's like so silly. It's like Senior Benjamin wins, and so Vanguard 1 gets pissed and just throws all the chess pieces. It's great. But Vanguard 1 is actually alive, people. And so now Vanguard 1 goes to try to find Senior Benjamin, and you get to the dilapidated barn, guys. And Mr. Benjamin was like, "What took you so long, man?" And so you find Matt goes and gets Mr. Benjamin, and they were going to prepare for more war at Bound for Glory, which this then leads to a in-ring segment, which involves the Broken family talking to the Decay various times. Everybody talking about being deleted and obsolete and the decay, coming back at them about how Bram didn't want to decay, so he's just gone, and Maxwell deserves a better family and all this. And I guess we're leading to, without saying it, a Full Metal Mayhem match, because this is like the only match the Hardys can ever have. And yeah, I think that does it for all of the broken segments for this show.
What a saga, really, this was. Yeah, if you're into this, it's great. If you're not, you probably find it absolutely silly. But I gotta say, it's made TNA extremely entertaining. The broken family is the reason to watch TNA, and it's so great in how goofy it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like that look Jack Gallagher gives you in the audience. It's kind of silly, but it's so funny, and I love the fact that they kind of give you more insight right away in this show from what was last week. Because I think if you were like me, you were kind of wondering what's next. What's next? You want more. I know maybe you listening don't love this, or maybe you do, but I personally am a big fan of this. This is a reason to watch Impact every week for me. It keeps me going even when some of the other things happen and I'm just like, oh, please, no. So, I mean, this whole thing was great. I love the whole... I call it the baptism. I know it was, him taking him out to the lake to do the seven deities thing, but it was basically reminiscent of a baptism, right? He came out sick and he came out whole after the water baptism. And so it was fun. I loved him, saying the champ is here. I loved that. I thought, he throws some shots at, WB, I get you. So that whole thing was cool. I enjoyed that overall. So the whole story gets you to where you need to get, right? It takes you closer to Bound for Glory, and that's what makes me happy. I feel like I got more out of it. I was not it's weird to say, I wasn't a fan of everything that they were in ring. The best that happened in ring was the whole shot that we had where, basically calling Rebby not a good mom. That was the biggest part of it. I like that shot, and of course that led to Mayhem. So, in all, it was very entertaining. I thought this is a really great part of the show. So.
Yeah, this was a terrific part of the show. Again, like Paul said, this is one of the reasons to watch. Unless you just hate it, then obviously it's not.
Then we just turned you off by talking about it for about 5 minutes here.
Well, I'd much rather group it all together than talk about it throughout, and it's like even more complicated than it is.
I'm not hating on you. I'm not throwing that at you. I'm saying just for the people who don't like it, probably like, good God, shut up, guys, move on.
It's like, stop praising this. What is wrong with you?
Exactly.
What is wrong with you for not enjoying something a little bit different? So we do have Lashley come out and basically is like, look, I beat the total shit out of EC3 last week, and so now we do not have a match for Bound for Glory, main event for Bound for Glory. So, he's like, well, what are we going to do? And he's like, well, Jeremy Borash, you can be my opponent. And he's, of course, not interested in doing that. So out comes Grado, and Grado is all about wanting to be Lashley's opponent. He even says that Borash is a bigger joke than Lashley is. And so Lashley just woofs up on Grado, of course, as you expect. A total comedy character. And then, here comes Moose. To where, like, only the people in the bottom half of the arena were actually doing the Moose pump. Everybody else on the, the bowl had no idea what was going on. So, this is basically Moose saying he's going to whoop some Lashley ass at some point, and Lashley's like, I'm not down for that, and yeah, so we have that, and then later on, you have in your sort of main event segment, you have Moose and Lashley go into the ring. Lashley says, what, I ain't doing this here. We've got. You want to fight, we'll do it at Bound for Glory. And, then Lashley just kind of throws him on the floor and stuff. And they keep beating each other up and all this stuff. And Moose even tries to do a Rainmaker, and Moose, let's just leave that to somebody else. All right, let's not be doing Rainmakers. So and then we get Mike Bennett coming out. Of course, he has the problem with Moose, and you get EC3 also coming out because he's got his issues with Lashley. And Josh Matthews, of course, makes this terrible. So it's Josh Matthews. He makes everything terrible, but it's at least there's your main event stuff.
They really did a good job of building Moose and Lashley up with that sort of big fight feel. And big fight feel is something that they do very well with Lashley, and something I'm looking forward to seeing more of a payoff with as we get on down the line, because I'm sure if EC3 isn't the guy to beat Lashley at Bound for Glory, it's going to be Moose. And that should be very interesting. I love EC3's taped up ribs, and I especially love Larry's mention of 90s DDP, because 90s DDP was the best DDP.
Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree. Really, Paul kind of said it there. I mean, this did have that big five feel. I mean, I personally am really interested to see in what direction they are going to go with this whole situation, because I think Moose is the big rising star here, and are you really willing to get that title off Lashley and give it to Moose pretty much this quickly? Because Moose is, young in this company, but he's also a big enough star that he can hold that belt. And then, of course, the EC3 situation gets mixed in here, and, of course, Michael Bennett. So I think overall, with this all together, it's a good story. It goes and it all makes sense, and I'm happy with that. Sure, we have had a lot of build-up here, and it's been kind of the same stuff week in and week out, which is okay. It needs to be that way. But to me personally, there's not really anything new brought into this. That's the only thing I'm going to knock on it. It just kind of feels like we're going in the same discussion circles, and over, week after week, this is just the same discussion. So that's the only thing I'm going to hate. But besides that, it makes sense.
Yeah, that is very true. And talking about same things over and over, Gary, the women just keep doing the same thing over and over. In this storyline here, Maria comes out and basically says, well, I'm going to stick it to everybody, and I'm going to make Gail Kim have her TNA Hall of Fame thing tonight. And so she makes a whole video of her beating up Gail Kim, basically. We have beat up John Cena, we have beat up other things, now we have hashtag beat up Gail Kim. And so you see how that one just doesn't work. Well, it's basically this whole entire storyline just doesn't work either. But yeah, you can tell how enthused I am about this entire thing with the women's division. I do not care. They ran this into the ground, and I don't care. And not to mention they've been having terrible matches throughout this. And the match that they have for the most obvious number one contender spot ever on planet Earth, at least in the recent memory that I can think of, lasts about 3 minutes, and there was never a doubt ever placed in this match that Gail Kim wasn't winning. It's just, could we just not care at all? Obviously, Billy Corrigan's strong suit is not the women.
Yeah, and everybody knows, if you're listening to this weekly, you know my thoughts on this, and it's still boring. But I will say this, I'm going to throw some positives out there because I'm wearing my unicorn hat here, and the power of positivity is going over me as it changes colors. So here we go. The best thing about this is we do have Maria show that video package, and it gives her more heat. It is something I think it's kind of comical, personally. Does it really matter? I not really, but you have Dixie Carter come out getting involved with this whole scenario, basically praising Gail Kim, kissing butt. That's cool. And then the other thing I think out of this is the fact that you do have, at least finally settled who that person is going to be, which is Gail Kim, to go against Maria. So you actually know it's going to happen. You know it's not going to be some silly stipulation. At least not right now. Hopefully they don't change it. But some ridiculous thing. So at the end of the day, we get some progression. But man, it's still not good. I'm sorry. And Sienna, ugh.
Yeah, I'm not a giant fan of this feud either, but I think this might have been something Billy Corgan sort of inherited and is just sort of trying to see through at this point. But this has gone on way too long, and I understand you wanted to have a big match at Bound for Glory, but I don't think this was the one to make. And going forward with the Knockouts division, you've already dug yourself a bit of a hole because now you got to make people care all over again, and that's it's a tough road to haul.
Certainly.
You wonder how they're going to dig their way out of that. That's my thing. You just said it, Paul. You know, he kind of inherited this mess. How are they going to find a way to turn this thing around? I don't know. I definitely don't. To be honest, and not nothing against Gail Kim, okay? She's great. She's been around forever, a great veteran. I don't know that people are going to be just, oh man, Gail Kim's the champion now. We can change this. This is all going to change. It's going to be better. I think you got to do something different. In fact, I'll say this. I think even if you had Allie train or them show her training and have her be the champion again and do it in a better way, tell better stories, I think that's a good way to refresh this thing. I don't think Gail Kim being the Knockouts champion for the 15,000th time is going to make anything different.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, I mean, I think Allie's definitely the future because she's the one I think that elicits the most reaction, and they've also planned into that too. So whether Gail Kim actually walks out with the championship or not at Bound for Glory, I think it's neither here nor there. But I think ultimately what matters is that championship ends up on Allie for real, and you start trying to build around her.
Yeah, certainly. So we also have the next two Grand Championship matches here. Honestly, nothing to see. Let's be honest. You get Mahabali Shera and Eddie Edwards, which was fine. You also get... they did some interesting stuff. Just, for me, this whole thing with the 3 rounds is just... Especially you see in the Aaron Rex and... Trevor Lee match, it's just like it's very hard to sort of kind of get in a rhythm with the way it stops and everything else. And again, you've got an X Division guy that's losing to another guy. It sort of is what it is. And you also get a empty arena match between Braxton Sutter and Rockstar Spud that I didn't care about either.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'll just start with, these tournament matches and the way these matches are working out are fine to an extent, but I think last week's were so much better. This week's were okay, but I wasn't as enthused. And that's just the way I kind of felt. I don't know.
There's one quick way to make me not care about something. Mahabali Shera being in it.
Yeah. I think we all agree on that, and probably 50 million other people. So, yeah, that's terrible. And I feel bad for the guy, but he just has nothing to give us. But, outside of those tournament matches, I will say that, I don't understand completely why you need that Rockstar Spud match here with no people in the arena. I don't even remember why that's even set up. I don't know. That's silly to me, Paul.
I think it speaks to how much they've really shown you of the X Division, because if you aren't on Twitter or social media or anything kind of following Rockstar Spud, you have no idea what the heck this guy is doing. He's angry at fans. He's angry at the X Division. He's angry at everybody because he feels like he's been disrespected. And he'll make up imaginary slights, which are absolutely hilarious. He has these little videos on Twitter that he puts up, which are just great. And that's sort of why it's an empty arena match, because he doesn't want fans around. And he has, an imagined slide against Braxton Sutter. The match isn't anything special. I think it's kind of an interesting idea to sort of do this, especially with what you're trying to do with Spud. But I don't really know exactly where to go with all of this, unless there's a big thing with DJZ coming up about being a fans guy versus not being a fans guy and all that stuff. The Grand Championship matches, I thought Aaron Rex and Trevor Lee was fine. Mahabali Shera clearly does not need to be anywhere around a Grand Championship at all because he has no idea how the hell to work this style. And I only think it got as good as it did was because of Eddie Edwards. So,
he just doesn't need to be around that, thing, period.
I mean, he doesn't need to be around a wrestling ring, honestly, but I think you have the right guys going forward in this tournament so far. The matches last week were better. This week you have a step down in quality, and that's only because I think you're maybe working with guys who aren't maybe as adaptable or suitable for the type of match you're going for with a Grand Championship match, style, division, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, very true. I think that's it for. I think we talked about everything on TNA there.
Awesome. Well, there you go, guys, and hopefully next week we'll have more great stuff out, of course, the Decay and the Hardy situation, and we'll find out, of course, more about these big matches coming up for Bound for Glory soon. So, all right. Well, one last thing we got to do on the show, guys, is crown a Superstar of the Week. I can't wait to do this. We got some big names to talk about. We'll be right back with Superstar of the Week.
Let's do this.
Superstar of the Week.
Alrighty, guys. Well, let's do this thing right. Let's start this thing off and talk about a certain person that definitely deserves a honor here, but they only get 1 point, even though they may, in different weeks, got more because of the fact that we had so many big things happen this week. But that 1 point goes to Becky Lynch. That's right. She won the first ever SmackDown Live women's title at Backlash.
She absolutely did. It was a very good match, I think, considering the chaotic mess that it could have turned into, but it was actually really good. The only reason she only gets 1 point is because it's coming up on SmackDown. She only gets to sit there and watch as a new contender is crowned for, which is all well and good, but we had a lot of other people on this list doing a lot more than that. But absolutely hats off to Becky Lynch. She deserves every good thing that's coming to her.
And we're going to give 2 points to another inaugural championships, and I mean chips, because there's 2 people involved, Rhino and Heath Slater. That's right, they won the first SmackDown Live tag titles here.
He's getting a double wide, baby! And he got these tag team titles. Fantastic stuff. The match was actually pretty good. I enjoyed it. And, of course, on SmackDown, they had a title defense. So, technically, even though it was like seconds, they had a title defense.
And when 3 points goes to The Miz, the Intercontinental Champion, retained at Backlash.
Absolutely. A phenomenal match with Dolph Ziggler, and he comes back firing again on SmackDown with promos and beating up Jobber Man to get into the main event, and they're pushing really hard on him, and he absolutely deserves everything, too, because he's worked hard, I think, since the gimmick change.
4 points goes to our Cruiserweight Classic champion, TJ Perkins.
And Cruiserweight champion as well. 2 fantastic, absolutely fantastic matches. And we didn't rate that Cruiserweight Classic final thing, but that's got to be one of the best damn shows of the entire year. You're looking at all 4 of those matches together on a 2-hour show. Freaking great.
5 points, and our Superstar of the Week goes to AJ Styles for winning the WWE World Championship.
My God, it's a shame. AJ's only got 12 points in our total rank, and hopefully this is a sign of change to come because AJ has been on fire this year, and he finally gets crowned as the WWE World Heavyweight Champion at Backlash despite some shady means, but this guy has been great. Hopefully we see him more often in this list going towards the end of the year, and I'm so into SmackDown and AJ Styles right now. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love AJ as well, and hopefully he does get more points. I think he definitely deserves it, and we'll have to see the coming weeks. Maybe he'll get those points. But, guys, we are pretty much done with the show, so we want to make sure you guys know that we are going to have more great shows for you next week. Don't forget, we have our SmackDown Live Raw reviews. Both those shows, right after they happen, you'll be seeing probably on the group somewhere, or, of course, you can find us the next day. You'll have both reviews for Raw and SmackDown Live. And, of course, our normal episodes will be available, Part 1 and Part 2, on Tuesday morning and, of course, on Friday morning for you. And, don't forget, hey, there's also a website you can go check out, W2Mnet.com. That's right, W2Mnet.com. Don't forget that. Go there, check everything out. The wrestling section's awesome. Of course, you're going to get all the podcasts there, and you're also going to get some written articles. Paul, you have your own article and show there.
I do. The Wrestling Time Machine, which we're currently taking a vote on what exactly I'm going to cover. There's a whole bunch of options, both in the article on W2Mnet.com as well as on our Wrestling to the Max Facebook page, so go vote in that, and hopefully I'll be able to come firing back this next week with something awesome for you guys.
That is going to be really cool. I can't wait to check that out. And, of course, we have some other great stuff coming your way on that site. And, of course, on the W2M network, we have plenty of stuff, Sean, to get into when it comes to football and some other great things. Why don't you go ahead and give us a rundown of what's happening?
Yeah, we have the video game show should be back tomorrow at some point. Mark will be talking about, I think he finally got to review WoW Legion, so we'll be talking about that. And I sent him the BioShock collection, so we'll get to talk about sort of starting that up. And then what's been going on, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Tokyo Game Show is going on right now, or about to start this weekend. So there'll be plenty of things to discuss there. And yeah, just with all the stuff with football going on, of course, which is sort of the most active part of the website, as far as like getting all the staff involved in things and whatever right now. So between all that, that's kind of kept everybody busy. And yeah, all the podcasts that have been posting shows kind of continue to do so. So yeah.
Sweet. So we got lots of great content for you guys. Don't forget to make sure you come back and check us out next week. We appreciate everybody who's come and listened. And, of course, want to make sure we throw a special shout out to Spreaker.com, because if you want to listen to our shows live, that's the best place to do it. And so we'll just make sure that's where you go. We want to direct you to that path if you do want to listen to our shows live. But anyway, all right, guys, we're done here. So just one last thing for myself, for Sean and Paul. If you're not living life to the max,
not living life at all,
you know it.
Please.
Later.
From the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment. The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.